comment brief so that others have the opportunity to speak. Yes, sir. Please tell us who you are.
Thank you. I am Erik Hanson. I'm an elementary teacher here at Cooperstown Central School for 6 years. And I speak tonight as a teacher at Cooperstown Central School, but also as a father of children in the district and as a community member. 2.5 years ago, I returned to Cooperstown Central School without reservation or regret. Cooperstown is a community that values the education of its children and one that respects teachers. I've been reminded so strongly of this in the past few weeks as parents have stepped forward to voice their concerns. For the first time in my life, I stand before you to voice my thoughts in a public arena. As those of you who know me and those who don't, I'm generally not the loudest voice on an issue. In general, I have faith in humankind. I believe in the hard work that our selected leaders conduct and empathize with the difficult position they are often in. I have become increasingly more and more agitated, however, by the eroding policies moving through public education. Of course, as a teacher, I'm concerned over the future of my profession, but so much more, I am terrified for the system being furtively put in place by a regime that shows no regard for the well-being of our children. For these reasons, as well as many others, on March 9th, the Cooperstown Faculty Association passed a resolution calling for Chancellor Tisch's resignation from the New York State Board of Regents. A copy of this document was published on All at Seago's website last week. Highlights of this document include that the New York State Regents Reform Agenda, which Chancellor Tisch has helped to create and unwaveringly supports, is fundamentally flawed and rooted in developmentally inappropriate standards and poorly constructed, high-stakes standardized tests. The value-added model used by the New York State Education Department to determine a student's growth score, as well as a teacher's growth score, is not available for public review, and the American Statistical Association has recommended that value-added models have significant limitation and should not be used for high-stakes purposes for students, teachers, or schools. I believe that true accountability exists not in a corporate-created test that is quarantined from public eyes due to copyright privileges and profit motivations. True accountability exists in a situation in which we look those that we were responsible for in the eyes daily. For teachers, that is the parents, and even more importantly, the students that we work with. It is easy to criticize from afar and keep accountability as a data point that can be manipulated for the whims of a political or corporate agenda. It is much more effective to have accountability on a local and personal level, with performance examined on a continuous basis and true differentiated instruction created by individuals who know the students and their families. I and many of my colleagues feel that the current New York State grade 3 through 8 ELA and math assessments are critically flawed. Just yesterday on March 17th, Cooperstown Faculty Association passed a resolution to support the refusal of high-stakes testing. Highlights of this document include our statements that the current grade 3 through 8 state assessments are not transparent and that teachers and parents are not allowed to view the test.
Mr. Hanson, please finish.
Yes. An item analysis will likely not be made available. The assessment practices that accompany Common Core state standards, including the political manipulation of test scores, are used as justification to label and close schools, fail students, and evaluate educators. Finally, the Cooperstown Faculty Association will support any of its members who have their own children refuse to take the grade 3-8 assessments and any other developmentally inappropriate tests that do not serve the sole purpose of directly supporting student learning. These past 2 months have opened my eyes to how blindly I have recently been moving through my profession, losing sight of what should always be at the center. What is best for the education of children? These past 3 weeks have opened my eyes wider to what an incredible community we have here in Cooperstown. Unity. It is what we will need to move forward and serve our students to the best of our abilities. We must openly communicate our goals and direction. We must feel safe to share our concerns, our ideas, our suggestions. We must share in the growth of our institution so that we all feel ownership. We must start questioning private interests infiltrating public education. We must stand up together against policies that are in opposition to the true and complete education of our children. And most critical of all, we must keep the children of our community at the center of all decisions made in these buildings. Thank you.
I can look around this room and see dozens of parents whose children I've had. And when I came up here, I neglected to say how passionate I am about teaching. I know Mr. Scalisi heard it from a couple of other people who reported today. Cooperstown Elementary School is one of my favorite places to be, because there's not a day goes by that you don't see something that a child has learned. I am a passionate teacher, and any board member can ask any parent here, and I stand proud to say I love this school, and I will stand up for the students as long as I'm here and beyond.
Are there other public comments on agenda items? Please keep your comments brief.
I will, thank you. My name is Heather LaPointe. I'm an educator in a nearby district, but more importantly, I'm a parent of 2 boys. One is 2nd grade Cooperstown Central School student and one a future Cooperstown Central School student. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity to present a petition that we have created concerning the position of Executive Principal, Director of Student Services. And I realize the school budget discussion was about an hour ago, but I would like you all to think back to the gap elimination, as well as the considerable lack of funding that our schools are receiving at this time. We as taxpayers urge the school board to eliminate the position of Executive Principal, Director of Student Services for the following reasons. There was no clear statement of role and responsibilities for this position prior to the board meeting held February 24th of this year, and there was insufficient taxpayer input concerning the creation of the said position. As Mr. Hebert pointed out at the beginning, enrollment levels at CCS have steadily declined from 1,025 students at the start of the 2010 school year to 888 students in the start of the 2014 school year. Cooperstown Central School currently has an enrollment of 888 average need students, according to the state. They are housed in 2 buildings, which are in close proximity, the elementary school and the high school, each building with its own principal and a shared superintendent. The added position of executive principal is unnecessary in a community with a school of this size, especially given its decline in enrollment. Comparable schools within the region do not have extra administration in order to implement the Common Core or the APPR. Teachers currently employed at the school with certifications in administration can take on some of these administrative duties for less cost. The salary of approximately $94,000 a year plus benefits would be better suited to hiring faculty, support staff, and curricular support, especially in the areas of AIS services, arts programs, extracurricular activities, foreign language, and programs for special needs students. As taxpayers and community members, we strongly urge the board to eliminate this position. Our schools are not in need of increased administration, but rather academic support. The $94,000+ spent annually on this position is not in the best interest of our students, our teachers, our school, or our community, especially in lieu of GEA and budget cuts spoken about during the previous presentation. Over the last 5 days, we've collected over 100 signatures, and that was in just 5 days with just a handful of us doing this, which tells us that, strongly suggests that much of the community feels that this position is unnecessary and financially irresponsible. On a personal note, I want to express my deepest respect for Cooperstown Central School as an academic institution, especially our teachers. I'm a graduate of Cooperstown Central School, and my children will be as well. I realize it is difficult to obtain unanimous agreement in anything, on any topic, but I ask that you keep the good of our students, our children, at the forefront of each and every decision that's made. I have copies of the petition letter for each of you, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. clarify that that's not an agenda item that I'm aware of. Are there any other comments on agenda items before we move on? Just so there are.
Is the presentation an agenda item?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
My name's Angelica Palmer. I'm a little nervous. I'm a local mother and a business owner. So I just wanted to respond to the presentation, the topic of the testing, the educational model our children are in. So while my son is learning important skills and facts, he's in elementary school, my daughter's not yet in school, I do not feel he is being well educated in the current educational system. He dreads all the things that should captivate him and fuel a lifelong love of learning. The current system exists, in my mind, to create passive, competent office workers saddled with debt. I have employees. I know about office workers. They're good. But I do feel that the goal should be to create creative, driven problem solvers that will address many demands of our future world. Rolling back Cuomo's current proposal wouldn't go hardly far enough for me, and I've often considered homeschooling my children. As food for thought, my ideal education would be child-driven, including much more learning from being in nature, engaged with the community, and drawing from the vast resources of educational opportunities available on the internet. As a side note, my son requests, he's not here right now, but more exercise, snacks, and more hands-on learning, less tests. And I am withdrawing him from the tests, just to state that publicly.
Hello.
Thank you very much. Are there any other comments on the agenda items? Mr. Hovis?
Hello, my name is George Hovis. I'm a parent of 2 children in the Cooperstown schools and also a teacher on the English faculty at SUNY Oneonta, and I'd like to respond to the presentation. Thank the board for this opportunity, and especially the teachers for that enlightening presentation and for all of your commitment and hard work. I thank the superintendent for his presentation as well as his recent letter and its clear statement outlining the rights of parents and the procedures for test refusal. I was less impressed by the supporting documents that accompanied that letter. I was not convinced by the one-sided argument of Tom Anthus's to test or not to test, but I would like to challenge here only his argument in bullet point number 6 that the, quote, surge in testing implemented as a result of No Child Left Behind has led to a dramatic improvement in public education and preparation for college. Anthus reports that in only 4 years, between 1998 and 2002, the number of college professors who said, quote, elementary and high schools expect students to learn too little impressively decreased from 66% to 47%. I'm left wondering, who are these college professors they polled? I've been teaching at the college level for 21 years, and I can assure you neither I nor my peers have witnessed this remarkable development. In fact, with respect to standardized testing and writing instruction, I fear just the opposite. I see students who have obviously been taught to write formulaic essays such as those they might be expected to produce on a standardized test. I see students addicted to the 5-paragraph essay and overly dependent on simplistic rubrics. My first job as a teacher of college writing is to get those students to abandon these formulaic approaches to writing, to embrace writing as a process of discovery, and to develop their ideas in organic rather than mechanized fashions. Which is not to say that grammar and mechanics and writing conventions are unimportant. They are very important. But I fear increasingly students are taught a cookie-cutter approach to writing, the kind of writing that produces reliable results on standardized tests. My own children come home jazzed whenever they have a creative writing assignment. Historical fiction is one of their favorites. And I will say these assignments have produced by my children their most sophisticated, committed writing projects. They crave more of these kinds of assignments. I appreciate the desire for hard data to evaluate teachers, and we do have sources of data other than state tests. We want to know what kinds of writing instruction our English language arts teachers are providing. Sample their graded papers. What kinds of comments are they making on their students' writing? These comments matter to students. Why should a teacher of writing bother with the enormous labor of producing all those comments if they're only going to contribute 15% or less to their evaluation?
Mr. Hovis, please finish.
I will momentarily, thank you. Why not spend more time in class prepping students to write that simple formulaic essay on their state test? As both a parent and a teacher of college writing, I'm not a fan of this test, and neither of my children will be taking it this year. The ways we evaluate students cannot help but impact the ways we instruct them. This is a bad way to teach writing, and it's a worse way to evaluate teachers of writing. Thank you.
My name is Meagan Coleman. I am a first grader at our school and a 3-year-old who will eventually join our school. I'm also a local educator, and I would just like to thank the teachers and the administration and the board for sharing so much information tonight, for their hard work putting the presentation together. And I would especially like to thank the teachers for standing up for our children. I'd also like to thank Mr. Bear, the Board of Education, and the Teachers Association for joining together to voice the concerns over Governor Cuomo's educational reform agenda. I also appreciate the district taking steps to inform parents of their opt-out rights. I look forward to attending the information night next week. As a parent, I am very thankful that if my child was in grades 3 through 8, I would have the right to opt him out of standardized testing should I decide that that would be in his best interest. I understand that there are some benefits to this testing. However, I had hoped that our district would follow in the footsteps of so many in our state and supply information from a variety of sources to inform parents on both sides of the opt-out issue so they can feel informed to make the decision that is right for their children. I had more to say about the assessment in our school, but I don't think that needs to be said anymore. Just that I hope that Cooperstown teachers continue to be encouraged to nurture higher order thinking and problem solving skills along with implementing standards rather than being asked to align their instruction to meet the tests. I hope that we judge our school's quality by more than the tests, by the happiness, the growth, the confidence that we see in our children every day. I urge you to continue to support the education of my children by working with the interview committee to hire a dedicated, passionate, caring, and qualified person to fill the position of elementary principal, and also support them by eliminating the position of director of student services, executive principal, and finally, using some of those funds in a place that might better meet the needs of our community and our children. For example, developing a pre-K program, which is much needed in our district. Thank you.
Hi, my name is LaDuke. I'm a graduate at Cooperstown. When I speak in front of people, my face gets beat red for a minute, so just excuse me. And I don't have anything prepared. But I wanted to say something a little different. My son is in 2nd grade. He's currently with Miss Houston while Mrs. Woodman is out. He likes taking tests. My child, in the short time that he's been in school, has learned that he is appreciated by how he does on tests. His classwork isn't always that great. He's distracted. He's a 7-year-old boy. I take education at home very seriously too. We are outdoors, we travel, we do all of these things. My decision to opt my child out of the testing is because he and I will not participate in evaluating our teachers this way, in making our teachers uncomfortable, of making people scared. We live in a world where everything has become this cookie cutter manufacturing company. We have a choice as parents, as community members, to stand up now and to change that in this little town. I've had generations of my family graduate from here. They were happy, successful, wonderful people. And I'm looking around and I see tons of people who have that same story. You know, and not to piggyback off of what was just said, but I can best look at my child and know how he is excelling by how happy he is to go to school every day, by his own critical thinking, by watching him learn and watching him explore, and by him sitting in front of a test or sitting in front of a computer. That is not what I deem a proper education for anyone in this world that needs so much change. I also support the idea of getting rid of this executive principal position, in that money could be utilized for more field trips, for more outdoor activities. The pre-K program is a wonderful idea. We have so many wonderful things that we could be doing without just adding more top-heavy administration to anything that we have in this world. Thank you for your time.
Sandra, Bliss again. I was advised to take off 2 of my slides and discuss them in resident comment. Again, it's about the charter schools and what the governor has proposed, and I would ask for your opposition to the increase in the school cap. Currently, there are 460 charter schools allowed in the state. There are only about 325. The governor wants to increase the cap to 560. Also wants to increase the funding. I did not talk about the fact that there's an additional supplement aid, which the governor and the legislature increased for 2 years last year, and now the governor and the Senate wants to increase it again, so that instead of an additional $350 next year for each child in the charter school, it would go up to $425, and the year after that, an additional $500 would go up to $575. And also the Senate has a bill in to create charter school building aid. In addition to that, there's an education tax credit bill called the Education Investment Incentives Act, which would allow people to donate up to $1 million to private schools, public schools, and get a 75% tax credit, not a deduction, a tax credit. And the Senate has increased that from 75% to 90%. So people could totally wipe out their tax liability and in fact could make a profit. It's really another backdoor voucher system to destroy our public schools. I have a handout for anyone who likes one. It is a half sheet, which they haven't all been ripped in half yet. And it has the number of Assemblyman McGee in Albany and in his district office in Oneonta, and Senator Seward and his district office in Oneonta and his Albany office. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? Please keep your comments brief.
My name is Nathan Sentz. I don't have anything formally written this evening, but I really have to commend Mr. Hanson for taking a stand this evening. It was an incredible speech. And since I saw the fact that it was so passionate, I wasn't going to speak this evening, but because of your passion, I would like to ask the Board of Education and the superintendent to remove the Parent Today article from the school website. I think it's a gross misrepresentation, and it was done by a communications expert, and I don't think it's doing the student body or the district by having that on the website. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? If not, we'll move on.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I would like to say that I'm grateful to the board for having been so quickly responsive to parents' concerns in the last couple of weeks. I'm very appreciative that you sent the letters that you did to our representatives in Albany. They're very strongly worded statements against Cuomo's proposed education reforms. So thank you for that. And I also thank you for the letter, Mr. Aber, that you wrote to parents outlining what will happen if parents refuse the tests for their children. I think that the letter was fine. I have to agree with other people who have spoken tonight that the accompanying material, however, was confusing at best. Perhaps one might say deliberately obfuscating exactly what the refusal of the test entails for parents. I'd like to ask the board to please clarify the March 27th deadline that you have asked in your letter that parents send their letters in by. I think that I think that you mean to say that that March 27th deadline is strictly a courtesy for the district so that you can arrange things and know about the number of students who might be refusing the test, but legally parents have the right to refuse the test up until the morning of the test. So I'd like you to clarify that for me, please. And I'd also like to point out that you have a section, I'm sorry, I don't have it with me, but there's a question in the, oh, there it is. The attachment, ramifications of refusal of New York State 3 through 8 ELA tests. There's a section called Refusal of New York State 3 through 8 assessments. And there's a question that I think is very misleading to parents, particularly parents who aren't sure whether they have the legal right to refuse the test. I think that this question, are parents able to have their children refuse to take the 3 through 8 New York State assessments? The answer is no in your worksheet that you sent home. It says no. There is no provision in statute or regulation allowing parents to have their children refuse to take the state test. I think that this is in fact misleading because there is a code 999 if students refuse the test. So obviously there is some sort of statute or regulation or rules written that accommodates children who are refusing the test. And so I would like to have you clarify that, please. And I'll finish right now by saying that I'd also like to point out that the main statute or regulation allowing parents to refuse the test is the Constitution of the United States, which gives parents the right to receive their children's education. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hanson.